Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Justin Kunkel, and I'm the Assistant Director of Undergraduate Studies in the Department of Forestry. I'm very excited to welcome all of you to our first ever virtual open house. Hopefully, this will be something that we will be able to continue into the future. To get things started, I'm going to introduce Dr. Rich Kobe, the chairperson of the Department of Forestry at MSU.
Thank you, Justin. And it's so great to see so many attendees, and I can see lots of familiar names, including alums in our attendee list. So thank you and welcome. I'm going to just make some really brief comments about the Department of Forestry. And I guess my major point is that we are really an awesome program. We're an awesome department, and all of that has to do with the fantastic people that we have involved. And I wanted to share a graphic with you that will help me make a few of those points. So on this particular graphic, this is a nice summary of our accomplishments and ways in which the Department of Forestry is a very vibrant and leading program. So if you look at that column there on the left, I'm just going to run through a few of these real quickly. We're the only university that has an urban wood utilization program, the MSU Shadows Collection. It's a great opportunity for students and others to get involved in a very hands-on way in connecting trees and wood and products. We are a leading university in the area of forest carbon and climate change. We are the site of the first mass timber building in Michigan, where a large $100 million project is being constructed, where the supporting members are being constructed out of engineered wood products. We are a leading university and forestry program in diversity, and the first at MSU to have an agreement with Medgar Evers College in Brooklyn, New York, which is a historically Black college. I can go on with the many firsts. I want to go over here to the right-hand side of this panel. Over the period of 2014 through 2019, which is the start of last academic year, we don't have current numbers yet for 2020, but we've had great growth in the number of students, both in PhD students as well as our bachelor students. We're offering new academic minors in urban and community forestry, as well as sustainable bioproducts, science, and technology. And you're going to hear more about that later today. I think one really special thing that characterizes this department is just how welcoming and supportive it is. Many of our students receive scholarship support. We have the capacity to give out more than $300,000 a year in scholarships. And we're that strong community that we have that's very welcoming and inclusive has resulted in a really diverse and dynamic group of students, where 20% of our master students and 46% of our PhD students are now students of color. We provide really fantastic opportunities. 95% of our graduates find work in forestry. We bring in leaders in the field through our Forest Paths Distinguished Speaker Series, where students are able to interact with these leaders. And we expect our students to become leaders through giving back and through service through our Forests Forever Scholars Program. We're seeing great support as well from our alumni and other donors. Over the last 5 years, we've had an 80% increase in the number of donors. We broke $100,000 in annual gifts from donors in 2019. And the most significant gift that is an endowment was close to $1 million that is an endowment for graduate student scholarships. So we really have great momentum. It's a dynamic and growing and wonderful program to be part of. And with that, I am going to turn things back to Justin, and I hope that many of you have the opportunity to engage with us and engage with us further, or to become part of this great community. Thank you.
Thanks, Rich. Next, I'm going to talk a little bit about our undergraduate program. I just want to pull up the presentation.
So while Justin's working on that, I'll introduce myself. I'm David McFarland. I'm the Director of Undergrad Studies, and Michigan State University has been giving out Bachelor of Science in Forestry since 1902, which many of you know, but some of you new people don't know. So we've been doing this a long time. That's part of the reason that we have such wonderful endowments, because we've had people come out of our undergraduate program and go into all different areas of forestry for more than 100 years. So it's a really exciting program, and I think are we about to hear more about it?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll see the presentation.
I don't see your presentation right now.
Justin, we were able to see it earlier.
Yeah, it appeared and then disappeared.
My apologies.
We can see it now.
Okay.
Excellent. Okay, very good.
All right.
Take it away, Justin.
So I'm just going to show a brief video clip that was produced by one of our communications interns a few years ago. And I think it provides a great introduction to our department and our undergraduate program as well. All right, so what is forestry? Forestry is the science and art of understanding trees and forests and managing them. While science guides the decisions of a forester, conflicting human interest must be considered. This need for experienced judgment, diplomacy, and tact constitutes the art of forestry. Similar to medicine and law, forestry is a practice. The education of forestry practitioners is accredited by a professional association, the Society of American Foresters, and all professional conduct is guided and governed by a code of ethics. Clearly, there's much more to being a forester than taking a few courses. Sustainability. Sustainability is a central theme in the field of forestry. Forest management decisions consider the current and future health of the forest and strive to ensure that benefits will be available for future generations. Foresters are concerned with much more than just trees, including animals, both game and non-game, soils, water, insects, tree diseases, and of course, human beings as well. Ecosystem services or benefits. This includes what we get from the forest, such as wood and game species, but also includes less obvious things that are more difficult to measure, like carbon storage, nutrient cycling, and water and air purification. So the forestry major at MSU, one thing that I like to let everyone know is that it is a STEM major. So it's grounded in mathematics and the sciences. So students are going to get a strong background in that, in addition to the specialized forestry coursework. The program will integrate the fields of ecology, biology, economics, and social science, provides extensive hands-on laboratory and field-based experiences. It also emphasizes experiential learning. This is a core requirement within our program. Students have the opportunity to take one of 3 different options to fulfill this requirement. They can participate in a professional internship, typically during the summer months, or they can elect to do a forestry-related study abroad experience. And finally, they can choose to conduct independent research with a faculty member in our department. In addition, we start thinking about career building right from the very start. When students enter the program, we provide extensive opportunities, including funding for students to attend different professional meetings within the state of Michigan and beyond. In addition, we do have professional advising for all of our students, and that's a big part of my role. And that relationship starts, for the most part, even before students start in the program at MSU. As they're applying to our program, I start communicating with students. And this was mentioned previously, but I do want to note that our program is accredited by the Society of American Foresters. Our program in the field of forestry is extremely multidisciplinary. So students will get a background in biology, ecology, forest management, and other areas that folks might not think about right from the start, including human dimensions, economics, and policies that are associated with the field. Also, urban forestry, urban and community forestry, and that's something that will be gone over in more detail later in the program. Carbon and climate change issues, quantitative methods in modeling, and finally, sustainable bioproducts And again, this is a program that will be featured later in our program. In addition to our major, we also have a variety of academic minor programs or specializations that students can take advantage of. The first two, Sustainable Bioproducts and Urban and Community Forestry, are open to all majors, including our very own forestry majors. And then in addition, for students that are not majoring in forestry, that still want to get a background, we have our forestry minor, which provides a broad overview of the program, and then a more specialized field-based field applications or more technical minor program. And then next, I just wanted to, our students, truly make our program. And I just wanted to, give you out there, just some ideas of what our students are up to over the summer months for their internships. So here we have a recent graduate, Jared Schaefer. This, past summer, summer of 2019, he was working with the U.S. Forest Service in Oregon, and he was working on a wildland fire crew. During this incredible experience, he was actually able to spend 2 weeks on a fire assignment in the state of Alaska. Next up, Thad Swart. Again, summer of 2019, he had an incredible research experience working in Isle Royale National Park, where he lived there for the entire summer, camped and cooked all their food throughout this experience, and collected critical data like tree diameters, species composition, tree cores, and woody debris assessments. And based on this experience and others that Thad has had in the department, he's planning on pursuing graduate school to further pursue these interests. And then I want to let everyone know, in the field of forestry, there's an incredible diversity of career pathways. And sometimes students come in, thinking that, they're going to want to pursue one route. And then when they're exposed to these different opportunities, they decide to pursue something entirely different. For example, I just mentioned, Thad's interest and what he's interested in pursuing. So many of our students, do consider pursuing academic research in the future. Some students pursue backgrounds in wood science, including biomaterials, wood products, the pulp and paper industry, and bioenergy. Next, the business side of forestry. We have many students that decide to pursue consulting forestry, where they're actually developing forest management plans for individual private landowners. Folks that end up working at tree nurseries, others, that are pursuing the tree care industry. Urban forestry, more and more of our students, I think especially now because of our specialized minor program, are pursuing careers in urban forestry. You will hear more about this later. And then a lot of our students end up working for nonprofits as well, focusing on habitat restoration, conservation, and education and outreach. And then finally, many of our students end up working for governmental agencies at the state level. So a variety of Department of Natural Resource agencies across the country. And in addition, the U.S. Forest Service and Bureau of Land Management. And some of these stats were mentioned earlier, but we, continue to display, amazing job placement rates for our students. We exceed 95%, since 2008. And that's something that, as a department, we are very proud of. And then just another stat that I wanted to mention, based on, statistics from the Bureau of Labor, the average salary for foresters is $60,000 a year. And besides, for prospective students, knowing now that they're going to have a job in their future, many students and parents are thinking about, well, how are we going to pay for all of this? Rich mentioned this earlier, but we have an incredible scholarship program, the Forest Forever Scholars Program. This includes financial support through scholarships that range from $2,000 to full tuition. Keep in mind that there is no application for this. Students that are admitted with a forestry major are automatically considered for these scholarships based on their MSU applications and their financial aid applications. And this program provides, in addition to financial support, incredible opportunities for leadership development, especially through a variety of service-related projects that students develop each semester that they're a part of the program. And at this point, I'm going to check in with Lauren Newell, our communications manager, and see if we have any questions at this point.
Thanks, Justin. We do actually. We are a little bit over on time, but I do think there are a couple important questions to address. The first comes from Eric from Mid-Michigan College. The college just recently started a hunting and angler scholars program with focus in outdoor media. Students would be focusing on MTA with a wildlife biology course, photography, website building, and more. Is this a student that would be a good applicant as an undergraduate transfer?
Absolutely. I think more and more, our students are becoming very interested in kind of the educational and outreach opportunities that, are out there for our students. And I think a student coming in with a background like that, would really excel and have, a variety of, future job opportunities available to them.
Great. And then one more, how are classes, especially field classes, being conducted during COVID?
I can take that one. So basically, I teach forestry field methods. Forestry field methods is a class where students learn their basic tree measurements and how to collect data and things like that. So what we did was we normally they're taught a lot of different tools in this class, how to use a compass, how to use a diameter tape. So what I've been doing in this class is our department basically invested in a bunch of new equipment, and we mailed every single student their own tool pack. And then I've designed a bunch of exercises that they can do in the woods near their house or measuring trees near their house. So that's what we came up with. It's less than ideal. And then to get them through it, I also have a live help session where actually last week I taught a person how to use a compass online, which was very interesting. I'd never done that before, and using demonstration videos and all sorts of mixed media. But we're doing the best we can to still create these hands-on experiences. It's been a challenge, but we're getting through it.
Okay, and here one more just came in, and then we'll need to move on to the grad session with Katie and David, but this is an important one that I know the answer to. I want to become a forest firefighter. Would forestry be a good program to enter that field?
Absolutely. And that is a career pathway and, internship experience that many of our students are pursuing right now. And there's coursework that directly focuses on that within our program. For starters, we have an introduction to wildland fire course. And typically that is taught over the first 2 weeks of the spring semester. And that is a course where, students are interacting with forestry professionals that do that work as a career from the Michigan Department of Natural Resources and the Forest Service. And as a part of that program, students come away, with their certifications to, immediately, that summer or in the future, be on a wildland fire crew or a prescribed burn crew. So, definitely would be a great fit for a student with those interests.
That's it for questions. If you want to go ahead with the next session.
Okay, thanks, Lauren. All right, so up next, we're going to have a presentation about our graduate programs in the department. I'll be introducing Dr. David Rothstein, Katie James, and Chad Papa. Thank you, guys.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We're excited to be able to share some information about the Department of Forestry's graduate programs. I just wanted to introduce myself, and then David and Chad will both talk about the different things with a presentation. So I'm our graduate secretary, and what I do for the graduate program is essentially work with the students from application through admission all the way to graduation in terms of just admissions and helping everyone get through their program. So the one thing that I will say that I find extremely interesting about our program is just how flexible it is. So we don't require a lot of specific courses for our master's in forestry or our PhD in forestry. So you're allowed to tailor it specifically to your own research interests. I did send a link in the chat box if you wanted to view that, where you could find more information about the admission and application process. And David probably has a better perspective on what different faculty would look for from a candidate. And so with that being said, David, you can go ahead and start the presentation.
Thank you, Katie. Hello, everybody. Bear with me. I'm going to try to share the screen. Did that work? Yes?
Yes.
All right. Thanks very much.
Go ahead and do the slideshow view so that it pulls up, because right now we were just looking at the PowerPoint.
Like that?
Yep.
I don't know why it's beeping at me. Okay. Sorry about that. Well, thanks everyone for attending this virtual open house. And we'll just try to give a very brief introduction to the graduate programs in the Department of Forestry, and hopefully have plenty of time for questions. So this is the diagram, the picture we chose to represent graduate programs in forestry. You might be saying to yourself, this picture doesn't look like what I think of when I think of forestry. And in my experience, the first thing that comes into people's mind when they hear the word forestry is a logger in a plaid shirt with an axe. So we do a lot more than that throughout the department, but certainly in our graduate programs. So trees and forests touch all aspects of our lives, from the air we breathe and the water we drink, to the green spaces in our cities, represented here in the urban and community, our spiritual, mental, and physical health, and then, of course, the structures that we live in. And then even when we think about the products that we're working on that are coming out for this picture, and they actually use wood products in cars, among an amazing assortment of things you would hardly think was possible in terms of new kinds of sustainable products that can be used, produced in a renewable manner from trees and forests. So our graduate students are training and advancing knowledge across all the areas pictured here, and many of them are working across multiple areas. And our graduate students work closely with their faculty mentors, who help guide them through all aspects of their program. So this is just a table which shows the faculty in the Department of Forestry. And each of the icons going across that table indicates which kind of broad areas of expertise the faculty members have experience in or doing research in. I think it's just the main thing to take away from this is how many, most, if not all, faculty are working across multiple disciplines and multiple domains within forestry, and that really reflects the complexity of the environmental problems that we face as a society that our faculty and our graduate students are working on. So we do have two main degree tracks, a Master of Science and a PhD. Within the Master of Science, we have two separate tracks. One is a professional track and one is a research intensive track. Currently, we have 7 master's students and 25 PhD students in the department. The students who pursue the professional track are usually seeking employment, working for an agency like Department of Natural Resources or the Forest Service. More often than not, they have a degree in they have a bachelor's degree in a subject other than forestry. It's much more of a coursework and professional internship oriented master's degree. And then we have our research intensive master's and our PhD in forestry. These graduate students are really, they're starting out as apprentices with their faculty mentors, and they're working through and they're conducting original and important research that's contributing to all of these areas of our mission. So certainly, you know, a lot of times if there's people on this call who are considering graduate school, interested in graduate school, one of the most common questions I get is, should you do a master's or a PhD? And the answer to everything is always, it depends. So it certainly encourage you to reach out and talk to me about that if that's something that you're seriously considering. Certainly PhD is a much longer time commitment. Students who go through the PhD program are probably spending 4 to 6 years, hopefully not 6, coming through, and they really tend to be focused on pursuing, they know they're going to pursue a career in research or academic or teaching at the university or college level. I often recommend the research intensive master's program to students who are uncertain, because this is a real, our master's students do excellent research. They publish in scientific journals, and those that really want to continue on the track are very competitive to get into PhD programs anywhere. So there's a lot of flexibility in that research intensive master's program for different kind of career paths. Here's email addresses for Katie and myself if you have questions that you want to follow up on. I guess I'll leave that up and maybe turn it over to Chad if both of those can happen at the same time.
Yeah, no, that'll be fine. So hi, everybody. My name's Chad Papa. I'm currently a PhD candidate in the Department of Forestry. I work with Dr. Scott Stark, but I also serve as one of the 2 co-presidents of our graduate student organization. Unfortunately, Clarice, the other president, couldn't be here today, but I'm just talking briefly about our graduate student organization, or GSO. So we're a registered organization on campus, but we're also a lot more than just that. So as an organization, we're an entity that graduate students can join and be a part of to achieve a variety of professional as well as social goals throughout their graduate career. So the biggest thing that we do throughout the year is put on a graduate research symposium, which is a great venue that's a low stress place for students to present either prospective or retrospective research findings. But in addition to that, we also do a variety of social events throughout the year, as well as other types of professional development activities. We try to do at least one professional development activity per semester. And these can be things from everything from learning more about like the major milestones and ways to get there throughout your graduate career, as well as things such as like writing or reviewing and learning a bunch of different skill sets that is necessary to succeed as a graduate student. And then beyond that, we also try to embody this role as mentors within the graduate students. So we pair up younger graduate students, or I guess not younger, newer graduate students with students that have been here longer, and help people with everything from adjusting to life in the East Lansing area. We have lots of students from all over the globe. So oftentimes that's helping people even figure out how to get driver's license, or like switch your voting registration if you're moving from out of state. And like we like to view ourselves just as like a resource for graduate students and a place for graduate students to connect with each other, as well as being a conduit with communication with the department. And so oftentimes we'll have dialogues within the department where people like Dr. Rothstein or Dr. Kobe will approach us and ask our opinions on things. And at the same place that the GSO is a great vessel for if there are concerns or issues that the graduate students think are important, we can use the GSO as a vehicle to raise those concerns within the department.
Thank you, Chad.
Thank you, Chad, for joining us and giving an overview. The GSO is such a great organization for our students. Lauren, do you want to go over any of the questions?
Absolutely. Unfortunately, we have to go kind of quick on these because we're going right about bumping into our next session, but I did want to ask a couple. Can you talk a little bit about PhD admission and what do you look for in a candidate?
I think that Katie had sent a link to some advice we have in general for all grad students. Should be in the chat. I think that we don't really have a departmental PhD program per se. We have, I think that viewing it as an apprenticeship with a faculty mentor is probably the most appropriate way to look at it. And so I think if you're considering a PhD program here or anywhere, the most important thing is to reach out and connect with the potential faculty members who you would want to work with. And I think each faculty member, you saw all the different disciplines, so it'll be quite varied, and depending on maybe particular specific background or things that individual faculty will be looking for.
Okay, great. And then one more. You already answered part of this question, how many master's students do you have? But as for PhD students, what in general are their areas of interest?
Yeah, I mean, I think that diagram we showed with all those areas, it's a nice looking picture, but I think it's pretty accurately reflects. I would say that our PhD students are pretty evenly distributed among all of those different areas. And science, very data intensive, remote sensing. There's people who are doing more what you'd think of traditional silviculture research. So I think it runs the whole gamut.
Okay, great. Another one we had, how about assistantships available for master's students?
Yep. Again, the best place to start is with a potential faculty mentor. Particularly with master students, most of the assistantship funding comes through research grants to individual faculty. And then, so from a departmental perspective, we can try to work with faculty to help with additional funding, but we usually do it engaging with the faculty first. So that's really your first point of contact if you're thinking about graduate school.
Okay, great, thank you. We do have another question, but I'm going to hold that one as it does pertain to our next session in sustainable bioproducts. So I'm all set on questions for this one.
Thank you.
So up next, I'd like to introduce Dr. Ochkan Najad, and she is going to talk about sustainable bioproducts.
Thanks, Justin. Can everyone hear me? Justin, can you hear me? Okay, thanks. Let me just share my slides. Okay, does this work?
Yes, that worked.
Perfect, thanks. Okay, hello everyone. My name is Ochkan Najad, and I'm gonna briefly go through the sustainable bioproducts in Forestry Department. When we are talking about sustainable material, basically any renewable material that is not going to compete with the food and nutrition, we're going to call it. It could be from either forestry, like a plantation tree, or could be from agricultural waste. These are the two main biomasses that we are using in general for sustainable bioproducts in our department and in many other universities too. And one of the main drivers right now for many industries to move away or from petrochemicals and consider even using renewable materials during the last decade, major one was fluctuation in the price of oil. And when the price of oil goes up and down, as a result of that, we're going to see huge fluctuations in the price of petrochemicals. And petrochemicals are the raw materials for many products that you are seeing around you. And if we don't have any control over fluctuation of the price of natural oil and gas, then the product's price is going to fluctuate too. One of the best ways to mitigate that is just to move on from petrochemicals and use bioproducts. As you can see in this picture, most major chemical industry in the world, they come together and form initiatives. It's called Together for Sustainability Initiatives. And their goal is to make sure that the entire process, it's from the raw materials that they're using, the processes that they're using, and the life cycle of the products, all of them are done with the goal to improve the sustainability practices throughout their industry. But one thing that's important is the consumers. Every one of you who are listening to this talk and people around you, we as a people are the ones that we can define. If we are looking for greener products, we can push all the industry to move on to use more sustainable, greener bioproducts. For instance, IKEA announced 3 years ago in a conference that by 2030, they're gonna move on and only have bio-based products. They're using for every single products that they're gonna have bio-based adhesives. They already using good products that is bio-based, and that was a big shock for major adhesives industry from around the world, because if IKEA is gonna move on and use 100% bio-based adhesives, and all the products is gonna be much more greener, then it's gonna be very difficult for other companies to compete with them. Therefore, they need to start right now thinking about moving on and using bio-based adhesives or glues too. And going back to basically petrochemicals that I was discussing, most of them is coming from oil and gas. The Earth, it's gonna take million years to from 50 million years up to 400 million years to basically get the plant or animal residue to make it like oil and gas that we can extract and drill and get them to make the petrochemicals. But what we can do, we can basically go around this way and just using the biomass to make most of the petrochemicals that you're currently using. And if we can do that, if we can use the biomass around us instead of relying on oil and gas, then we're gonna have the resources that is gonna be sustainable. Because when you cut the tree to make the products, either plastics or paint or glue or any other things that you see on polymers around you, if we that we can plant a tree back and they're going to grow. It's sustainable, it's renewable, it's not going to deplete, and they're going to have significantly lower impact on the environment, especially with the carbon and climate change. But once we are talking about biomass, it's not just from trees. It could be from crop residue, as I mentioned, industrial residues, animals, even municipal waste. But in forestry department, most of the projects that we are working are mainly focused on forest residue and or agricultural residue to make the bioproducts. And when we're talking about sustainable bioproducts, like I'm sure as soon as you hear about sustainable bioproducts, you think about like wood products, like furniture, cabinets, flooring that are made of wood. All of them are part of sustainable products. And when you join our department and or the minor that I'm going to discuss about that, you're going to learn about these products. In addition to that, you're going to learn about wood products that they use in constructions, like basically OSB or in like more advanced panels, like insulated, what we call it SEEP, structural insulated panels, the ones that they have foam in it, or many other wood panel products. Also, pulp and paper products like tissues, packaging products, papers, newspapers, all of them that are coming from basically wood products. But that's not all it. Like when we look at bioproducts, I'm sure you all know that the vanillin is coming from vanilla bean, but it's going to be very expensive. If you go to the market and you're buying a vanillin, and it's synthetic vanillin, and you buy a big jar for very lower price, this is usually made of the lignin, which is one of the main components of the wood. They make vanillin from lignin from wood rather than vanilla bean. If you look at the ketchup, you can hardly imagine that there is any wood products in them, but actually there is. The thickener that they're adding in ketchup, small additives, is carboxymethyl cellulose, CMC, that adds as a catalyst to ketchups, different foods, and also paint. Another one that you're going to learn again through this program that we talk about, like medicines. For instance, this tree that you're seeing is origin of China and Tibet. They have some extractive flavonoids that they can use that extractive from this tree to make an anti-tumor drug for cancer, and many others like medicinal plant. The other main aspect of like the bioproducts is biofuel and bioenergy, like basically using corn or corn stover or trees or others to make bioethanol or biofuels. But that's not going to just end there. When we are using those bioproducts, there's biorefining aspect that we can use the leftover from the biomass that is used from for biofuels or bioenergy to make bioproducts. And with bioproducts, one of them, if you look at this flexible LCD monitors, or if you have any flexible TV in your home, those flexible LCD are made of nanocrystalline cellulose, which is made of wood. If you look at these cars, they are extremely expensive right now because the entire body of these cars, because to be light and strong, are made of carbon fibers. Or sometimes when you have a laptop that is significantly lighter than the other less expensive laptops, they're made of carbon fiber too. Right now, carbon fiber is made of petrochemicals, PAN, but if we can make carbon fiber from lignin, which many researchers are working around the world, and one of them that I'm collaborating with in Clemson University, they have a very good result. You can make carbon fiber very cheaper from lignin. Again, it's the main component of the wood, and this cars is going to be much more affordable, and your car is going to be much lighter and use less energy or gas to run, because now you're going to have a body that is made of carbon fiber, which is significantly stronger than steels but lighter. The other things would be the mass timber products that you can see multi-story building completely built of wood products, and I'm going to show you a video to explain about UBC. Can you hear the voice? I hope you do. This 18-story multi-story building in University of British Columbia was basically built in 9 weeks. That's how fast it's going to be if you use a cross-laminated timber or mass timbers to build a multi-story building, because all the parts are the walls or other sections are prefabricated, pre-made in a factory. They just need to put it together. And you can see that how huge impact it has on carbon storage and environment to use this multi-story building. As Dr. Kobe explained, there's a new mass timber building that they're building in Michigan State campus that is going to be a STEM building for science and engineering students. Most of your future students classes is going to be on that CLT or mass timber building. As was mentioned again by previous speakers, like we recently developed a sustainable bioproduct science and technology minor. If you are forestry students or if you are students from any other major, you can take this minor program. It's focused on basically the sustainable bioproducts. The one this is some of the slides that I showed to you that you're gonna go more in depth and learn about those. Some focus on wood physics and mechanics for gilding, green buildings and mass timber buildings. You're going to have some business and leadership courses for innovation, some chemistry or material science and engineering courses for related to sustainable bioproducts, all of them with the goal to have sustainable forest systems and basically put all of these together, that you have a really good knowledge or background about sustainable bioproducts. Yeah, this is an example of some of the current research that we are doing in our department. One of the projects is basically when we start with the trees or agricultural waste, they're gonna go to either pulp and paper industry to make paper products, or they're gonna go to biorefinery to make biofuels. The waste that left over we get that is called lignin. We can use lignin to replace petrochemical to make this rigid foam. This is a foam, bio-based foam that can be sprayed for insulation applications for the houses. Flexible foam that we can make like furniture or seating. This is the projects that we are working with Ford Motor Company, and they are really excited about using this bio-based foam in their manufacturing line in the next year or two. And the hope is that when we are using this bio-based foam, not only it's going to improve the sustainability of their products, it's going to have antimicrobial, antibacterial, and flame retardance properties. It's kind of another project is to make elastomers, again, for automotive and industrial application, paint for wood or metals, adhesives that we can use to make mass timbers or other wood products. If you have any questions, this is my email address. Please feel free to send me emails if you have any further questions, but I'm open to answer any questions that you may have now. Thanks for listening.
Thanks, Mochkan. Lauren, are there any questions?
I do have one. I would like to offer this to Mochkan, but I want to also read something that David Rothstein wanted to answer this question as well. So last session, we weren't able to get to the question, are there chances to go into conservation with the forestry degree? David says a strong yes to this. We placed a lot of graduates in the conservation field. Also, with a forestry background, our graduates have a skill set that is in demand by conservation groups. Our students get hands-on skills that students from general environmental and ecology programs don't get. But I wanted to open that up to Mochkan or Justin if you wanted to expand on that at all or have any other thoughts.
I agree with Dave wholeheartedly. I think it would be a great fit.
Yeah, I don't have anything to add. David basically answered that very well.
Okay, great. That was our only question though, so I think we're ready to move on to the next session.
All right, thanks, Lauren. So up next, I would like to introduce Dr. Asia Doughton, who's going to talk about urban and community forestry.
Thanks, Justin, and hello, everyone. I'm going to take half of a second to share my screen. All right, is it visible?
Yes.
All right, perfect, thank you. All right, so like Justin said, my name is Dr. Asia Doughton, and I'm a faculty member in the forestry department, where my work specializes in urban and community forestry. So I'm gonna take you on a whirlwind ride, and we're gonna go all through the ins and outs of urban forestry in the state of Michigan, around the country, and back here at MSU in the span of 20 minutes. But what we're gonna do first is just have a quick little pop quiz-ish type situation where I'm going to ask you all just to think about really quickly, like when you hear the term urban forest, what actually comes to mind? What exactly is an urban forest? And so I'll give a few hints, maybe to generate some thoughts. Like, when we use that term, does it include trees that are growing in public spaces, or is it limited to trees that we might find maybe like in the downtown district of a major city? Or what about trees that we find in our backyards and other private properties across big cities, small towns, tiny incorporated villages? Am I missing something? Well, when we talk about the term urban forestry and the field of urban forestry, we're really thinking about those things and more. It's really a way for us to think about and really discuss the trees and shrubs that are found within municipalities. This includes those which are found on public property, those which are found on private property, and really thinking about the engagement between these forms of vegetation in our cities, the people who live there, and how the two interact each other for an ongoing amount of time. So that being said, when we think about the urban forest, one cool fun fact is that a general rule of thumb that we use to really divide the urban forest into different categories is to think about it as then about 90% of what we consider urban forests are within the hands, if you will, of private landowners, and only about 10% of the urban forest is public. So when we think about who actually holds the urban forest in their hands, it really makes us start thinking about, well, if we can define an urban forest, then how exactly do we think about the field of urban forestry? And moving forward, like one of the key ways that we define urban forestry is really thinking about it in terms of the planning and management of the trees that we find within our cities, residential areas, municipalities. So we've got this vegetation. How do we plan for it to be there for a sustainable amount of time? And then how do we manage it once we have it in the ground or once it's in existence for the long term? if you're like me, you might be thinking like one of the things that makes cities great, but at the same time complicated, is you've got this wonderful mix of people, cultures, but also this wonderful mix of vegetation. And when we think about urban forestry, one of the things that makes it a truly exciting and challenging field is that we're dealing with this mix of both ecological processes and social processes that really govern cities and really dictate a lot of the patterns that we see in cities across the state of Michigan, across the country, and really across the world. So when we think about urban forestry, we really have to be kind of expanding our mind to think about the ecological or natural processes at place, as well as all those processes that we're responsible for as the people who live in and around or shop in cities. So that being said, if we think about urban forestry from those two big umbrellas, right, the ecological processes and then all those social characteristics and patterns that influence these ecological processes, it puts us in a position to think about all of the different skill sets and disciplines that we might tap into to really develop an understanding of urban forests, number one, and then how to move forward properly managing those urban forests. And so with that in mind, it becomes evident that urban forestry, although it's within the forestry sector, if you will, it really isn't a truly, truly interdisciplinary field. And when it comes time to fully understanding the urban forest and then developing strong urban forestry initiatives moving forward, you've got to bring in perspectives, or you have, I should say, the awesome opportunity to bring in perspectives from a variety of different fields, ranging from studies in climate change, environmental justice, urban ecology, economics and business, to urban planning and design, landscape architecture, data visualization, entomology, public health, public policy. All of these different disciplines actually inform a lot of the work that we do in urban forestry. And when we take this sort of interdisciplinary view into mind and think about how we can use these diverse perspectives to manage our urban forests, it puts us in a position to really develop initiatives that help to allow for either like the rejuvenation of an urban forest in a given city, and like we mentioned earlier, that long-term, sustained, healthy management of the urban forest. And these initiatives are taking place in cities, like I mentioned earlier, across the state of Michigan, across the country, and across the world. So I just wanted to take half a second to highlight some of the maybe more or less popular movements that are happening in our region and in our country to sort of encourage public awareness of the urban forest, and then again, successful urban forestry, successful management of the urban forest. Right here in the state of Michigan, we have ongoing initiatives throughout the state. I'll highlight two on both the east and west ends of the state. In Detroit, the city has put a lot of effort behind the 10,000 Up campaign, which is essentially a 3-year campaign to make sure that 10,000 new trees are added to Detroit's urban forest, roughly between 2017 and 2020, but those efforts are still ongoing. And then on the other side of I-96 in Grand Rapids, we have the Mayor's Greening Initiative, which is a really phenomenal partnership between the mayor's office, so the public sector, the government, and then a very active nonprofit in the city named Friends of Grand Rapids Parks. And collectively, the two work together not only to get more trees in the ground in the city of Grand Rapids, but also to train up the residents of the city to take good care of those trees once they're in the ground. And one of the cool things about this partnership is, like that Venn diagram that we looked at, they put a lot of work on that ecological side of things, so picking the right trees that are going to thrive in Grand Rapids, but they also put a lot of work on the social side of things, which is figuring out what types of trees are most suitable for different communities in the city based on the cultural needs of that city or wants of that city or neighborhood within the city. And so these are just a couple of initiatives that I wanted to highlight here in Michigan. Back on the East Coast, New York City had the Million Trees campaign, which really was going super strong about a decade ago, and the fruit of that labor is still evident. But regardless of if the initiative is taking place here in Michigan, New York, Lisbon, somewhere in Australia, a lot of what drives these initiatives is really some of the work that's been done in previous decades that have led to a societal shift in the way that we see the world. So like Dr. Najad mentioned, we're now much more of a sustainability-minded society, and we want to make sure that we're taking care of the earth. And if we're in cities, we want to be taking care of the natural areas in the cities that we live in or use for various purposes. In addition to that, pre-COVID, there was a huge rush and a long-term rush of people moving into cities for various reasons and wanting to have a place that they can enjoy their lives outside of the walls of their home or their work. And so a lot of work had been done to make sure that enjoyable green spaces were present in cities. And like I mentioned earlier, a lot of this work has been supported by both investments and partnerships from both the public and private sectors. All that to say, whether it's the 10,000 Up campaign in Detroit, the Mayor's Greening Initiative in Grand Rapids, Million Trees NYC initiative, or whatever initiative may be happening at this time or in the future, none of them can really move forward without having a strong workforce in place, a strong urban forestry workforce that is comprised of people who have a solid knowledge base, and then the strong applicable skill sets that can be used to help think innovatively about current and forthcoming initiatives, and then to actually get the work done to make sure that they get up and off the ground and then are well managed throughout the longevity of that urban forestry initiative. And this is where we come in as MSU Forestry. Like, we take a lot of pride in being able to really be a part of training up the workforce to move forward in leading these initiatives, both in this generation and in those to come. And so I'm going to take a few minutes just to talk about what we do in the wonderful world of urban and community forestry here at MSU. Our ultimate goal is to prepare prospective students, current students, for careers in urban and community forestry. And there's 4 key areas or approaches, if you will, that we take to make sure that we're providing adequate, well-rounded preparation. This includes engaging students in our urban and community forestry coursework, and that also includes providing them access to expand their knowledge through enrolling in our urban and community forestry minor. We also provide opportunities for students to engage in urban forestry research, both at the undergraduate and graduate level. We make the effort to ensure that our students have experiential learning opportunities, and this includes students who are enrolled at MSU currently, or maybe prospective students who may be coming in through like a summer enrichment program for high school students. And then we also infuse community engagement, both into our coursework and our research and experiential learning. So very briefly, we have an urban and community forestry coursework. It provides a solid backbone, if you will, for students who are going to move forward in their urban and community forestry minor. And within our course, we cover a variety of topics. I won't go through all of them, but I do want to give you a quick taste test. We go into in-depth discussions about environmental benefits of urban forests, but we also kind of take some time to quote unquote keep it real and talk about some of the disservices of urban forest. We talk about trees and biodiversity, and like without any hesitation jump into the narratives and the ongoing discussions about natives versus exotives versus invasive species within our urban forests, and taking that knowledge to come up with solid plans for which trees to plant. Once the trees come into the ground or are in the ground, you have to know how to assess the risks that they may pose to urban residents. And so we talk about tree risk assessment as well. And we also get into some of the social dynamics that really do influence urban forest initiatives in large and small cities alike. So I'm going to give you just a quick tour of some of the things that we've done in the course over the past couple years. We've been involved with some of the work in Grand Rapids and have taken part in some of the community outreach initiatives led by the Mayor's Greening Initiative. So this is us planting trees in Grand Rapids last spring. On campus, we have a outreach campaign that we do towards the end of the spring semester where we select trees on campus. We use iTree to calculate the value of that tree based on the ecosystem services that it may provide. And then we put those values on signs and use it as a way to communicate with the public about the value of the trees we have on our campus. This is another community outreach event that was done about 2 years ago with the Greening of Detroit and helping them with their nursery out in the city at Rouge Park. And then we also give our students an opportunity to develop their science communication skills through a video project that we do annually that puts them in a position to identify a concept in urban and community forestry that really resonates with them, and then help them to figure out how to best communicate that with the general public through a short science communication video. In addition to the stuff that we do with traditional classroom-based learning, some of the things that I've highlighted that we do out in the community, we also put a lot of work into making sure that students who come through our course have access to professionals in the field. So we have guest lectures that we bring in throughout the course of the semester, as well as host an annual virtual career day, where we bring in professionals who are both alumni of the MSU Forestry program or just very committed to helping current students make the transition from being a student to being a professional in urban forestry. So I've just listed a couple of the, or a few of the organizations that we've had representatives come out and speak to our class over the past few years. In addition to what we do in the classroom, we get out into the field and really try to collect data that gives us a better understanding of how our urban forests are sort of working for us. A lot of the work that we've done thus far has focused more on the ecological aspects of urban forestry. And so I'm just highlighting briefly, I'm not sure if you can see my mouse, but we had a current PhD student and a former summer research student who looked at processes that are taking place with water transport and then soil chemistry and like woodlots in the East Lansing area. We've had current and former students who have helped me with some research on the East Coast, looking at the relationship between urban trees and urban water. And then on the experiential learning side of things, we've had, again, some summer students come through and really learn about urban forestry. And this is them, a picture of them making cookies from trees that were felled from campus. And then we also have current educational outreach initiatives that are led by faculty, but also engage students who are either currently in the program or recent graduates. And this is one that we're wrapping up right now. The city of Berkeley, right outside of Detroit, asked us to work with them to come up with a tree guide that they can use to strengthen their citizen science forestry program. And so that was a great project. We also, on the right-hand side here, I'm highlighting work of a recent or a current graduate student of ours who led an educational outreach campaign that then tied into his research, looking at how do citizens of Flint sort of respond to these outreach events? How does it impact the degree to which they understand how urban forests work? Ultimately, like I mentioned, our ultimate goal is to provide preparation for a career in urban forestry. So you come through and we're gonna put you in a position to really successfully pursue a career in the private sector, public sector, academia, or wherever your heart may lead you. And I'll just close out very briefly. These are some stats from a study from Virginia Tech, but they were essentially giving an in-depth look at folks who have careers in urban forestry and looking at career satisfaction, salaries, different ways that people live out their careers in urban forestry. And it really, I wanted to just show this to say that it's an increasing workforce. Lots of folks who are involved in this work are fulfilled in their work, have an opportunity to really go up the professional ladder and achieve great things for themselves personally and ultimately for the good of the cities that we live in. Just a few more pictures from some of the urban forestry work we've done here at MSU, and then I will close by saying thank you and by providing my contact information. If you have any questions, I'm glad to answer them now or to be in contact after today to just help you talk or think through some questions you may have about urban forestry here at State. Thanks again.
Thanks, Asia. Lauren, are there any questions coming through on the Q&A?
We do have one. We have someone that's asking, what would an urban forester do? So I think they mean kind of like, what's your day-to-day? What do urban foresters do?
Absolutely, great question. And that's why we have that virtual career panel to really represent, or to have voices represent all of the different things that you can do in urban forestry. If it's okay, I'm just gonna go back to sharing my screen really quickly so I can show that slide again. Okay, let's see. Okay, that's not gonna work on the fly. So long story short, for that Urban Forestry Career Day, what we did, we had folks out from like the Washington, D.C. Department of Transportation and their Urban Forestry Division. And those folks helped to do a few things. They actively manage the trees that line the public rights of way in the city of Washington, D.C. But they're also responsible for helping to engage the public and becoming more active with managing the trees, right? So that there's eyes all over the city, if you will. So their day-to-day really looked like various things. It looked like riding around in city trucks, identifying which trees may be hazardous, putting together work orders to remove them, but it also looked like teaching the community how to do that. We've also had people there who are consulting arborists, so they might actually get calls from private property owners to come out and really assess what might be a potentially hazardous situation, and then be tasked with removing or mitigating that situation. We also had an urban forester from the East Coast, and their day-to-day looked like developing the plans that were really going to set the long-term trajectory for the management of trees in that city. So that's just a taste test. You might be doing some of those things and varied other things that look like active management and active planning and or active engagement with the community.
Great, thank you. That's the only one we have, so I think we're ready for the next session.
Thanks, Lauren. All right, so up next, I would like to introduce Lauren Cooper, who is going to talk about our Forest Carbon and Climate program.
Thank you very much. Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for having me today. It's been great to watch some of my colleagues' presentations. I'm just going to share my screen here and give you a quick overview on the Forest Carbon and Climate program. Here we go. So again, I'm Lauren Cooper. I direct the program, we're involved in a wide range of activities, and we're really a cutting edge program in this space. So the topics of carbon storage and climate change are becoming increasingly important for forests, and it's a really cross-cutting thematic area. And this program has grown pretty dramatically in the last couple of years, and we see a lot of continued growth. And so I'm excited to share some information about our training, and we do largely online program development and some of the research that we're involved in. So just a quick overview of our team here. We have a number of folks that we work with directly, but we also work with faculty that cut across the department, because again, this is a kind of cross-cutting topic area, so we're finding that just about everybody's work can touch on carbon or climate in some ways. Just wanted to give a snapshot. Kylie Clay is our associate director. MS does our online learning development. Chad Papa is a research assistant with a graduate assistantship with us. Daphne Gadoth is our program coordinator, and Virginia Shapton handles communications for our team. Our work is really categorized in four major work areas. We have formal education, which is our graduate certificate in forest carbon science policy and management, and that is a completely online certificate that we've been running since 2012. So we're one of the first programs to really tackle this topic area. But we found that we had a lot of professionals that were interested in this topic and finding themselves needing the professional training, but a full graduate certificate was not what they were interested in, or maybe what they had the time for. So we have really cut a new path into non-formal education and filling a gap of the needs for training professionals, mid-career professionals, and people from a very wide range of backgrounds that are finding themselves needing to know a little bit about carbon with forests. So we'll have urban planners, people from the business sector, interestingly with oil and gas folks coming through our programming that are looking at carbon offsets, foresters that would just like some more training on the carbon pieces. So this is, and I'll highlight some more specific examples. So this is a major growth area. We also do get involved in research and project-based activities. And as an extension institution, we do highly value stakeholder engagement. So we do a lot of outreach and information sharing, and I'll highlight a few of those examples as well. So a little more detail here on the graduate certificate, and we do offer this as a professional certificate, which means you can take it not for credit if this is of interest. But this is a certificate that has been really carefully set up to be an option for master's and graduate students or doctoral students currently in the program. So you can take all of the courses can double count towards your degree. And so here are the 3 courses that you can take, and they would all double count towards your degree, but you can earn them, you can take them separately to earn a graduate certificate. And here are the courses. It's a very interdisciplinary, so it cuts across human dimensions, forest economics, policy and finance, forest carbon, and then measuring and monitoring of forest carbon. We also have a suite, again, of professional short courses. So here's our first major short course. I might have a brief interruption here. Sorry. This is our professional short course that we launched in summer of 2019. Oh my gosh, excuse me. So we have had about 150 folks come through this short course. So this was a course that was developed with USDA support. We've had people from over 13 countries participate. And there's professionals including foresters, land managers, consultants, researchers, people in policy, and again, some energy consultants and folks from oil and gas. So the idea here was to create something that was very interdisciplinary. So we had people that are coming in with maybe forestry background, but they're not very familiar with some of the climate oriented or carbon policies. We have other people that are completely on the policy side and they have no idea how trees are measured or what forest inventories are. So the goal of this is to get more folks through here that can then speak to each other and speak the same language about forest carbon and climate and what this topic means. We also host a monthly webinar series, and actually we are just now today announcing our upcoming lineup. So if this topic's of interest, we do have a full lineup coming up for 2021, and so our 2020 to 2021. So this is a monthly 1-hour webinar series that is, again, you can kind of see from the lineup, we really have to touch and keep an eye on a wide range of topics in this space. So we're everything from very physical science, so soil, carbon stored in soils, to policy at national and state levels, for example. And then forest carbon projects. So how are tribal communities considering and participating in carbon projects? And another big emerging topic area is wood utilization. So wood products and emerging technologies like mass timber, and what are the carbon storage and the climate benefit implications there. So just a really exciting range of topics that we're involved in and that we can work with various faculty to bring these topics kind of into a more cohesive understanding of how they come together. We also are committed to providing open source materials. So on our website, we have the Forest Carbon and Climate Program Open Resource Library. And here is a video series that is available that highlights tree measurements. And so if somebody that's not a forester could take a look and say, where do these numbers come from and how do you measure trees? And then somebody that is a forester the example of doing plot math, inventory math to come up with your carbon calculations. And so these are freely and readily available on our website. And we've also created a suite of unique graphics. So here we have just a set of graphics that we've made that are communicating in some cases, some pretty kind of complex and new ideas, thinking about carbon and climate and where you can have interventions with forest management to actually increase your carbon storage over time. And then some of the basics, the science basics, how do trees absorb carbon through sequestration and stored in various carbon pools? And so we find ourselves communicating to a really wide range of audiences, so having these images at our fingertips are very useful as well. And we've just recently launched a new platform to get science information out, both from the Forest Carbon and Climate Program, but also across the department. So this is our FCCP Insights page, and here we can highlight recent research that's coming out, also kind of a blog post or highlighting various research activities that are coming from the department. Interested in exploring some of these types of topics. Again, we kind of touch on a really wide range of these topics related to carbon and climate. One of our major projects now is we're advancing our professional training short courses. And so this is involving a deeper dive into regional modules. We have a little more USDA support to advance this short course. We focused on 3 regions, so the Pacific Northwest, the Northeast, and the Southeast. The Northeast is a very large region, so breaking this down is pretty complicated. But we are providing an overview of the regional climate impacts, so expected impacts, just from climate change generally, and then how that will affect forests and the forest landscape. And then we have a specific species breakdown. So what's the research, what's the literature telling us and trade-offs. And this is involving some expert input. So we have some remote workshops and our folks taking this short course. So they're really looking at what's the information and how can this inform decision making at some pretty large scale. So it's really exciting to be involved in this type of content development and to see the types of folks that are finding it beneficial. So we'll be launching this in the summer of 2021. And then we're also getting involved in some carbon modeling. So to try to understand how are the management practices that we could undertake today, how could that impact carbon storage over time into the future? And so we are currently working on a project with 5 states, and this is through the U.S. Climate Alliance, which is 25 states that have agreed to uphold a major climate agreement, international climate agreement called the Paris Agreement. So if you're interested in that, I would definitely suggest Googling the Climate Alliance. Michigan has somewhat recently joined about a year ago. And so there's a lot of questions about how do we think about the landscape to help us meet some of these climate targets going forward. And forests have a very important role in this. And so we're really trying to fill some information gaps and how can this inform decision making. So here we're working directly with Department of Natural Resources at all of these states. And sometimes folks that are up in governor's offices as well, providing presentations to those folks. So it's a really exciting project, but we're really getting in on the technical side of things to explore how we can provide information that can inform decision making. And then I kind of wanted to close with just a quick overview on some career paths. So I touched on a couple of topics about DNR type folks. So that's like a Department of Natural Resources. There's people in policy space, but there's really a wide range of opportunities, and we're interacting with a lot of these people. And we're just seeing increasing prioritization of these topics. So sometimes new careers and expertise in carbon and climate is being requested, and there's really not that much formal training in it. So it's exciting to be able to help fill the gap. But there are career paths in forest carbon project development. There's consulting foresters. So being a consulting forester specifically for carbon, it can be really important and fill a gap, because a lot of times landowners now might have questions about carbon, but some of the foresters may not. Many of them don't have this type of training yet. Again, Department of Natural Resources, other sorts of, that could be like at a state level, but we're also seeing counties, conservation districts, could also be looking at having folks on staff that, or Department of Agriculture even can have a need for people that have forest carbon knowledge. Urban forestry, so following up from a lot of Asia's comments, Dr. Doughton, urban forestry is a really important topic area, so urban inventorying, but also understanding what are the climate impacts on urban forests and how will that affect carbon storage going into the future, and how can we use and leverage urban forests to mitigate climate change, so actually store more carbon from the atmosphere. So we're seeing that folks that are urban planners or urban foresters increasingly wanting some of this knowledge about climate change and both adaptation and mitigation. In terms of nonprofits, there's some really major work going on in this space. So a lot of the big players in big conservation NGOs have whole teams now dedicated to forest carbon and climate topics. So the World Resources Institute, Resources for the Future, WWF is another big one. So there's some really kind of big actors, both domestically, also internationally. So if you're interested in international work, there's a lot of work happening here, but also some other places that might be more site-specific located, like a land conservation or conservancy, maybe looking to participate in a carbon project, for example. And so could be looking to bring someone on their team that has some carbon experience. And then there's this really large business sector. So we have folks in timber industry that are definitely bringing people on their teams. And actually timber industry are some of the first and biggest players in carbon markets. And then also non-industry businesses. So we have groups with sustainability targets. So I have McDonald's over here. We've actually had somebody come through our program because they have a major non-deforestation initiative. So they don't want to source any of their products that could, from anywhere that could cause deforestation. And that's really linking back to sustainability, but also climate targets. And then any other groups that have interests in carbon offsetting and neutrality. And there's an increasing suite of actors that are kind of in this in-between space, groups like Renew West, that are kind of on the kind of conservation or NGO side, in that they're very sustainability oriented, and their aims are large-scale reforestation, but they actually can function as investment groups, so they can have like a business angle. So there's really kind of interesting combinations that are coming out of this space that involve investment and carbon and conservation, and sometimes productivity and timber production as well. Some of these other actors like Vera and South Pole and SCS Global are all involved, and actually Finite Carbon are all involved in carbon project development and assessment and verification. So these are some other interesting folks. I see job opportunities popping up from these types of entities as well. Forest Trend is another big NGO that's based in DC, and they have put out an annual report on voluntary carbon markets. So just kind of a wide range of folks here where I'm seeing interesting people land positions and bring their expertise there on the carbon and climate pieces. And so that is what I have, and I'm happy to take any questions if anything's popped up.
Lauren, are there any questions that are coming through in the Q&A?
We do have a couple questions. These actually came to me via email. So first, this is specific to the courses. Can a non-credit student get Society of American Foresters CFE course credit for the non-credit courses?
Yes. 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 So that, for folks that don't know, SAF, or Society of American Forests, offers continuing education credits, continuing forestry education credits. So they're called CFEs. And that we do work very hard to make sure that our non-credit offerings are eligible for continuing education credits, but also our monthly webinars that are free are eligible for continuing education credits through SAF. And depending on the topic, can also have some other continuing education credits associated with them. So I definitely encourage you to check out our new lineup. I can drop it in the chat here as well. If you're interested in signing up for any of the upcoming webinars, you can sign up for all of them today, and you'll get reminders or calendar invites sent, so you don't have to remember anytime in the future. They'll just pop up on your calendar, but you could choose any of the ones that you're interested in. And so that's another way to get to consider the CFEs, but our short courses are also eligible for the CFEs.
Okay, great. I have another question here. I think this is someone who's already taken a few courses. If a student elects to take one of the certificate courses for non-credit, could they get a 25% discount on the course if they had taken a carbon-focused continuing education course in the past?
I'm not sure. They'll have to email me. So we do offer a discount for continuing. I'm not sure what they've taken in the past. So we do offer like a discount for any continuing education within the Forest Carbon and Climate program, because we don't want people to feel like they have to pick and choose between taking something now or taking something that we might put out. And a lot of the content can be complementary, but there's usually new content. So we want people to feel like they can jump on and take courses. So feel free to reach out to me. I'd be happy to look into that more specifically to see what you've taken in the past and what you're interested in taking. So you can email me at forestc@msu.edu and I'd be happy to take a look.
Okay, perfect. And then one more just popped into the Q&A. Do you have to have a background in forestry already to take these courses?
No, no, you don't. So this is what's exciting and very challenging about this space, is that it is really demanding of folks from a really wide range of backgrounds to kind of come together and be talking about, be at the table and discussing the same thing, but it requires, a little bit of forestry knowledge, a little bit of economics or policy. And so, no, you do not need a forestry background. We do provide all of our short courses or our standalone non-credit offerings start off with a science overview, because that's the foundation of why we are talking about forests and climate and carbon. But there's no expectation that you'll come in with forestry. And in fact, we are probably getting more folks that don't have forestry coming into those courses. Again, some very surprising range of a really wide range of backgrounds, which has been really exciting, but it kind of reaffirms the challenge that we have in front of us of bringing this topic forward. But again, a lot of exciting opportunities in this space.
Okay, perfect. That is all that I have question-wise. I think we're ready for the next session.
Okay, thanks again.
Thank you.
All right. So up next, I would like to introduce Casey Owens. He is the treasurer of our Forestry Club. And the Forestry Club is a big part of our undergraduate program, kind of social life and, professional development wise as well. So here's Casey. Thank you.
Howdy. Thanks, Justin, for the introduction. I just got a little presentation and some few words to share. Hopefully I can get this to work. Come on now. Work for me. There we go. Cool. Everybody can see this, correct?
Yep.
Okay. Just the presentation? Oops. Anywho.
Yeah,
okay.
we can, but it's not in presentation mode. Like if you want to see a single slide at a time.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, so we can see the slide deck on the side. If you go to present, you might go to full screen.
It's okay.
Either way, okay.
I don't know. Because I don't know. Oh, there we go. So now it's kind of working, I think. Okay, well, I guess we're going through the slides now. 'Cause I don't know how to work the, here we are. Okay, here we go. Ooh, that was fun. Anywho, this is the MSU Forestry Club. I'm Casey Owens, as Justin said. I'm the treasurer. We were invited to talk about the, my goodness. What insane. Sorry about this. My goodness, can't get anything to work. The MSU Forestry Club is the oldest, being established in 1903. as a club, we have several goals on helping our members professionally, academically, and achieve the best what we can. It's a very tight-knit community. A lot of our students have reported that they really like our classes. They really like I'm sorry. So we have a lot of activities that we like to do, and different opportunities that we do. One of them is conclave. We go down to a university in one of the Big Ten universities for the most part, and we participate in timber sports. It's mostly a great way to get together, good camaraderie, anyway. So we also do that. We sell Christmas trees, as on our slide here. That is one of our big fundraiser events. It's a great way to learn how to do business, how to interact with customers, how to try and sell things. In the fall, we do homecoming floats. So I think it was 2018. We won, number one. We had the best float. 2019, I think we got rained out. So we put a lot of hard work into nothing, which was kind of a bummer, but it's the way it goes, I suppose. This was 2018. And then in the winter, we make syrup. Well, I should say spring. It usually falls right on spring break, of course. I mean, we boil syrup. I think we put in right around 100 taps. Not a huge operation, but sizable operation for students, but it's a good time. You learn a lot about how to run a business, how to interact with people, and how to accomplish goals on a personal level. So, and then this is one of our newer classes that Dr. Van Yacht, right? Yeah. He is, so Andy, it's his class, pretty new, 413. And we actually got to start a wildfire, or kinda. We were doing a prescribed burn over at the Tree Research Center, which was kind of cool to do. It's pretty cool. These are my club's email and my email. If you have any questions, please let me know. I'm more than happy to talk to anybody about Forestry Club. I'm a big fan of it. So yeah, that is quick and dirty, so to speak. The club is, it's all about what you put in. And we currently have a lot of people that want to put a lot of work in, and they're getting as much out as they can. We like to have people in to talk about future career options. And we try and help everybody that we can with homework, any professional goals, and help you out professionally. I made a lot of friends throughout the club, and they do help me through classes. They help me as a professional, and please join. That's kind of it. I don't really know what else to say, but I'm a big fan. So.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Casey. Lauren, just checking in again to see if we have any questions coming in through the Q&A.
We've got a couple here. Someone asks, how can people support the club, get merchandise and syrup?
So right now, that's kind of hard. If you could shoot me an email, we will see. I can attempt to mail the person any kind of products that we might have, see if we still have some. We're currently ordering some t-shirts and other things. Syrup, we're all out of. We do have the little bottles though. They're not very big. But yeah, shoot me an email.
Casey, could you put your email address in the chat then so
Yep.
they can access it there?
I'll shoot my email in here into the chat.
Perfect. And then we had another question. You kind of touched on this already, but I thought maybe you might have some examples. Someone asked if there's any professional development. Can you give me examples of some things that you've done?
So for professional development, off the top of my head here, for the most part, we do have people come in. That's usually right around spring semester. March, I think, was when we started having people come in. And
You see, I vaguely remember there was a retired alum that came in and talked to the group. Were you around for that? I know that was somebody who was interested in reaching out to the group at one point.
I mean, maybe it seems like it's been a long time. I'm trying to remember, which is less than ideal. Professional development, I know. So I've asked people in the club for help with my resume. People have asked me for other professional help. So it's mostly on a small term basis. Like if you need a help here or there. We do try and get people to come in and talk about careers. We did have somebody come in, now that I'm thinking about it. Yes, he was an old retired alum, and he ended up in Oregon.
Yep.
Of all places, and he just retired, and he came back. Yep, now I remember that was. Yes. So we do have people come in. They try and help us the best they can, and we appreciate it. Everything that everybody does.
Great. I think that's it for questions on my end. I haven't seen any others come in.
Great.
Well, thanks again, Casey. Much appreciated. So at this point, we'll transition into the last session of our virtual open house. And this is going to be a question and answer session panel with several of our current undergraduate students. So there are going to be 4 different students that are on the panel. We're going to have Aaron Budson, Jillian Chirillo, Davian Graham, and Connor Smeeter. So to get things started, it would be great if each of the students could introduce themselves. Maybe your hometown, your year in the program, and if you could talk a little bit about how you initially became interested in forestry and how you found MSU. So who wants to start?
I can go first.
Okay, thanks, Erin.
All right, so hi everyone, I'm Erin. I am currently a senior here, and this is senior year part 1 for me. I transferred in 2 years ago after taking community college courses to get my general classes done. I got interested in forestry because I've always been outdoors and in the woods my whole life, and I've been trying to find a career that would allow me to continue to be outside all the time. And I'm actually double majored in forestry and fisheries and wildlife. So I love the outdoors and this community, and MSU has been absolutely wonderful with me as a transfer student. Very supportive, very helpful in all my questions, and I really enjoy our program here because it is small and we get to be really close.
All right, how about Connor?
Sure thing. I'm Connor Smeeter. I am currently a junior at Michigan State. This is my second year with the forestry program. Like Aaron, I'm double majoring in forestry and fisheries and wildlife as well. And I added forestry my second year at Michigan State. I initially started out just with fisheries and wildlife management, but I met a couple people who were already in the forestry department through forestry club, like Casey was talking about, and got to be good friends with them. Kind of started talking to them about the program and what they did, and thought it was really interesting. You know, I'm somebody who enjoys spending time outdoors like most people in the program do. So I added it as my second major, and it's been really great experience since. I've enjoyed pretty much all my classes. There's always something interesting to take from each one of them. And one of the big appeals for me personally is that there are a lot of employment opportunities. There's private industry, there's public sector stuff. I mean, as long as you're willing to put in the time to look for it, there's stuff out there. So it's been a great experience so far, and I'm looking forward to the rest of my time with the program.
Thanks, Connor. Jillian?
Yeah, so my name's Jillian. I'm a senior in forestry, and I'm also double majoring, but I'm forestry and then sustainable parks, recreation, and tourism. I'm from Northville, Michigan, which is like in the suburbs of Detroit. And I started in human nutrition, kind of really unsure of what I wanted to do, but I've always had these goals of like something that's very multidisciplinary and something that can allow me to like help the planet, but also interact with people and help people. And forestry has been like the absolute perfect place to do that. And I also really like how it's super tight knit and you can like interact with your professors a lot, which is really helpful.
Thanks, Jillian. Appreciate it. So we're still waiting on Davian, but hopefully he'll join us here shortly. But what I thought I would do is I would start off the panel with a question for all the students to respond to, and then at that point we can look at the Q&A feed and see if any of our participants here have any questions for our students. So first one, are forestry professors accessible? How much time do professors spend with undergraduate students?
I'll go ahead, I guess. In my experience, all the professors I've had in the forestry department have been extremely helpful with any questions I've had in class and out of class. They're always willing to, obviously meet during office hours, or if that doesn't work, make time to meet outside of office hours. Any and every question they're more than happy to go into. I remember I asked Dr. Rothstein, David, professor he does the dendrology course. One time last fall, I asked him a question about some trees in my own hometown and why, they acted differently than trees here do. And, it wasn't necessarily related to my course at the time, but he was more than happy to kind of bounce some ideas around and try and help me out with that.
Thanks, Connor. Erin, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, so I find them to be very, very willing to help you with anything. We get a lot of feedback from them, both in and out of courses, and any question that you have, they are ready and willing to answer. I know I have friends that are in other disciplines who can never reach their teachers and can never get their questions answered, where I've never come into that problem here. Our professors are fantastic about helping us with anything, whether it be questions from class to personal questions to anything like that. They really strive to be there for us.
All right, thank you. Jillian?
Yeah, for sure. I agree with you two fully. I also wanted to add that they're not only available, but they're super approachable. They're you can definitely tell that they're not being approachable because they have to. They actually really want to help you, and that makes it easy for shy kids to come up because they know that they're actually wanted to ask questions, which is really helpful.
All right, thanks, Jillian. So Davian just joined us. So Davian, if you could introduce yourself, let us know your hometown, how far along you are in the forestry program, and how initially did you get interested in the forestry program at MSU?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Davian Graham. I am a junior now, third year. This is technically my second year in forestry, though I'll be graduating next year. I'm from Detroit, Michigan, so Southeast Michigan. I would do the hand thing, but I don't know if we have time for all of that. I would say I initially got into forestry through my work with an urban green initiative called Greening of Detroit, in which I did urban tree care and things such as that in the Detroit area. A lot of landscaping work, things that kind of gave me a little bit of interest in outdoors activities, as well as just an affinity for nature and urban spaces.
All right, thanks, Davey. And I'm gonna hold you on here for a second and have you respond to the first question that we asked the panel, and that is, are forestry professors accessible, and how much time do professors spend with undergraduate students?
I would say forestry professors are very accessible, especially, well, one of them is here, David Rothstein. Amongst the most accessible professors I've ever had. Honestly, I don't think I've had very many teachers who I've been able to just contact whenever with whatever type of question, whether it's academic related or things of different types of natures. They're very accessible and very willing to help students in all aspects. Honestly, the faculty with forestry is some of the most approachable people I've met.
All right, thanks, Davey. So Lauren, if I could check in with you and see if we're getting anything through the Q&A feed.
We did. Thank you for checking. We have a question here. What kind of internships or summer programs have you been involved with that will help your career? And were those coordinated with the department?
I can take that. It's in the question box, so I'm just gonna look. Internships, summer program involvement. All right, so I would say I've done a lot, but one specifically was this conservation program that I did over the summer called Doris Duke Conservation Scholars Program. It was a collaborative effort between different colleges, and one college specifically being University of Washington, where they brought a whole bunch of different people from different colleges and different backgrounds together to create a broader understanding of what it is to do conservation and how we can find ourselves in conservation and work through it. And I would say that over the time that I've been in forestry, I would not have found out about a program like that. That has definitely changed my perspective of what it is I'm going to do. So I would have to say forestry definitely opens up doors to internships and access to ways to do things like that.
Thanks, Davian. Anyone else want to follow up on that?
Sure. This past summer, I was working for Grand Traverse Regional Land Conservancy up in the Traverse City area. And while I wasn't exactly put in touch with them by the forestry department, I did get to talk with them at the College of Natural Resources job fair that was held in, I want to say, late February this past spring. So that combined with the knowledge I had from classes I had taken in the fall, dendrology, field methods, that gave me the qualifications that kind of got me hired for this position. It was an invasive plant removal position, so the department really prepared me well for that.
Thanks, Connor. Anyone else?
I can talk about my internship. Last summer, I was working with the Bob Marshall Wilderness Foundation in Montana, but I was working alongside the Forest Service, and I actually got that job through my other major, but I don't think I would have actually gotten the job without the forestry major, and I absolutely used so much of my knowledge from forestry. With that, forestry has kind of been like my introduction to field work. I didn't have any field work experience before, and the program really helps you get like the foundation, so I don't look really dumb when I go into a job and it's my first fieldwork experience. So that was really helpful, and it was a great job.
All right, thank you. Erin, do you have anything else to add?
So I think I'm the only one that hasn't actually done an internship yet. I had one planned for this summer, but then obviously Corona hit and it got canceled. It was with a summer camp through MUCC, and I would have been able to teach children skills that I've learned through my classes here at the forestry department, and also help with their gun range and their bow and arrow range, and just pass on my knowledge. So I definitely would not have known about it without being in the forestry department. They were at our job fair that we had as well, and actually a friend of mine works for them at MUCC, and that helped as well. So
okay, well, hopefully you can get a similar or that same opportunity, this upcoming summer. I'm sorry, that didn't work out for you. All right, I'm going to go back to Lauren. Is there anything else coming in through the feed?
Yep, looks like I got another one. What advice would you give to students who might be interested in the field, but they don't have much exposure?
I guess I'll start. So I would say if you have room in your schedule, take one of our classes and see, whether it be the seminar course or one of our ones that has a lab. Taking a course that involves a lab will really get you into the field to see if you like being outside. And it's a good way just to kind of dive in but not be overwhelmed. And then talk to any one of us if you are in like the polar bear room or anywhere near us, and just see what our thoughts and experiences are, because it's really a field that's pretty easy to get into.
Following up on that briefly, for outside folks, they're gonna wonder what in the world is the polar bear room. So if you could just explain a little bit about that. And
yeah, actually that's good. I totally didn't even think about that. So in our building, in the natural resource building, there's a giant polar bear in the lobby, and then there's a room just adjacent to it that we call the polar bear room. And that's where a lot of students go to do homework, to heat up food to eat. That's where the forestry club office is, the Fisheries and Wildlife Club office is. And it's just a good spot for students to come and meet other students, hang out, do homework, relax. I've even taken a nap on one of the couches before. Like, it's just an all-around spot that forestry and fisheries and wildlife students come to just hang out for the day if you're on campus all the time.
All right, thank you. Anyone else want to follow up on the earlier question?
Might want to take a shot at that one. So, me coming from a relatively urban area, I didn't necessarily have the most experience when it came to the field of forestry. Honestly, I kind of got into it when I got into college. I always had kind of an affinity for the outdoors and things like that, but never the experiences that I think you would need to be in forestry. But I said what would be a really good outlet to do this: research, do research, look up things, ask questions, find what you like, and then find your niche in forestry. So in my case, I like to do design, but I like to design things with natural resource emphasis. And because I like to do that and do things that way, I found my niche in forestry. So honestly, forestry is a very broad type of major. It's one of those things where you can do a lot of different things that you want with it. So I would say find your niche, do research, learn what you like about it. Definitely take trips outside, go outdoors, look at trees, look at things with a deeper level of analysis than you would typically. So don't just look at a tree, look at the leaves, look at the patterns on them, look at the branches, the buds, all those types of things, and find what you might really like about it. And then once you get into there, then dive in and you'll definitely get the experiences that you're looking for.
Thanks, Davian. Anyone else?
Sorry.
Go ahead, Joey. That was fun.
I just wanted to accentuate that forestry is so broad, and it's really fun to try to find your niche. But when you're starting from ground zero, don't be afraid to just do everything, even if you think you're going to be terrible at it. Like forestry is a super kind place to do that. And a lot of professors, like if you do a field class, will understand that you're starting from ground zero, and like it's really easy to go up from there. I definitely started from ground zero when I started taking field classes, and it was still really helpful. It wasn't too much.
Yeah, everybody else has pretty much covered all the main points that I would agree with. I'd also recommend coming to forestry club meetings. Again, even if you're not a major, people can give you a good idea what the program's like, and a lot of the activities that we do incorporate stuff that we learn in our courses. And then in addition to that, I know a lot of people who have forestry minors, so that's a good way if you kind of just want to get your feet wet and test it out without jumping all the way into the pool. And obviously, if you do find you like it, you can expand on the minor. So.
All right, thank you. Anything else, Lauren?
Nope, that's all we have for right now.
Okay, so I think we still have a little bit more time, so I'm going to follow up with another question here. How much forestry class time is spent in the field with hands-on learning? And how does this compare with class formats in other majors?
I can take that. When I was a first year here, I was an engineering major, so I can give you a bit of a rundown of just a very clear difference between forestry and anything else there is. I would say with forestry, most of your class time is spent outside. And most classes, most anything that you're doing, in any class that has a forestry or the FOR before, you'll definitely be outside most times. You'll be outside in the woods, walking around, definitely a lot of field work, hands-on, and things like that. In comparison to other class structures, I can tell from engineering, I didn't step outside of a classroom once while I was in the entire field for a semester. And that was just kind of weighing on me and draining. Honestly, being outside was good, but you'll spend a large, probably the majority of your class time, regardless of weather. Let me say that you'll be outside. So in the cold and the rain, and just regular, really nice, cool temperatures, you'll be in the woods, looking at trees, doing your surveys and your work like that. It's always fun though.
Thanks, Davian. Anyone else? All right. Oh, go ahead, Jillian.
Okay, I was just gonna add, like, I just always feel like it's really helpful that the outside portion is like the main focus, and usually when we're in lectures, it feels like this is something that's supplemental to when we go outside, which I think is really cool that the focus is like learning things outdoors, because I think that's when I learn the most, and like the teachers try to make sure that when you're inside, it's just like what's absolutely necessary to be inside for.
If I can add to that real quick, obviously, like all the outdoor courses are really enjoyable, like everybody else has said. There are courses, obviously, that are classroom based, but some of them have been my favorite courses in the whole program. 372, for example, data analysis was all about like statistical analysis and working with a coding language called R to process data and that sort of thing. So it's not like you're going to be outside all the time, which for some people might be good, for some people might be bad, but you do also have the opportunity to learn valuable indoor skills, I suppose.
And where do you guys do the field work for these classes? There was a follow-up question in the chat.
Baker woodlot, any woodlots on Michigan State campus, woodlots in general. If you're talking about field work for classes, definitely the woodlots. If you're talking about field work for out of class activities like extracurriculars or research or things like that, then typically any type of natural or green space.
Yeah, so we do the woodlots on campus. We also, for forest ecology, go off campus into different areas around Lansing and take little field trips for our labs that day. Can't think of any off the top of my head. I know for some of my FW courses, we went to Rose Lake, and for my silviculture course right now, we're at Rose Lake. So that's a popular one. And there's some other ones that we go to too. So both on and off campus, but it kept in the Lansing area.
Okay. Thanks, guys. Next up, what kind of career options are each of you guys considering at this point in your stage in the program?
I'm still kind of bouncing around. I think that's one of the great things about forestry is, as I said earlier, there's a lot of options. And summer jobs are a good opportunity to explore what you like and what you don't like. Did invasive control this past summer. It was a good experience. I don't know if I want to do it in the future. So right now I'm thinking more private industry with its own company.
For me, I'm considering urban ecology. So ways in which you can do ecological sciences and work design and green infrastructure in urban areas. Again, very strange way to go in forestry, but you can go anywhere you want, really.
So for me, I've been working with a professor for 2 years on campus whose focus is in human dimensions. So I've been doing human dimension work of forestry for 2 years and have actually really liked it. So I changed my plan completely, and now I'm looking at going and getting my master's, hopefully from U of M, and it's going to still be in based on the environment, but it's going to bring in psychology and different aspects to look at how we can change our viewpoints on nature. So I'm going in a more human dimensions avenue for forestry.
Okay.
I'm also definitely still fluid with my plans, but I'm kind of focusing on public lands and like natural resource management, I think, and like recreation a little bit. So I'm hoping to get in with the Forest Service and start to work for them in natural resource management.
All right. Well, thank you guys. And so based on something that Aaron touched upon, I wanted to ask a follow-up question. So you had mentioned kind of how transformational your experience was working with a professor. And so, it sounded like, that was some sort of like research experience. And so I guess that would be my follow-up for all of you guys. Are there opportunities for undergraduates to get involved in research projects and field work? If you guys have any, personal experiences, if you're willing to share those, about those experiences, that would be great. I think students would be very interested in that.
Yeah, so I've been, like I said, working for 2 years with the same professor, and I actually got in based on my friend was already working for her. So she knew that there was an opening in the lab already, and I was able to email that professor and tell her that I was interested and met with her, and she basically hired me on the spot. And I've been doing different research with her on different projects. We've worked with the Forest Service, we've worked with local DNR. I'm working on like an old survey project right now. I've done transcribing. My skills have just really broadened with all of this, and I've learned how to do phone interviews correctly, and just getting a lot of different work. My work isn't so much field-based work, so I'm kind of lacking in the field work, but the in-house work as far as like computers and interviews, those skills have really increased. And I would say if you get that opportunity, sometimes it's word of mouth, sometimes it's sent through email from the forestry department, but it's great and you should jump on it if you can.
Thanks, Aaron. Anyone else?
Yeah, so I do a lot of different types of research work. So in one capacity, I'm an actual researcher. So I have my own research question, my own project that I'm doing, and everything that I work with a professor on. Another, I do assistant research with a social science professor on the merits of wetlands research and things like that. What was the original question? It was something around research. You wanted me to describe what?
Like, yeah, like are there opportunities, how you got involved with them, and like I'm sure like in your case you just didn't have a research question right away and you started your own project. So like could you talk a little bit more about, kind of what led up to that, different experiences, and then how you built this collaboration with a faculty member?
Okay, all right. That's a really good question. I'm gonna try and make this as short as possible because it could be a very long story. For the most part, when I got here, when I first entered forestry, I was looking for any type of faculty member who I could find some type of engagement with or like work with because I knew that I wanted to do research in some capacity. So at first I started working with Dr. Rothstein, and I did a lot of soils cataloging and data entry, which was really good. It really just opened the door for me to get into research. And eventually that research had ended because of, the ending of the project. And as soon as that happened, I was looking for other means to do research. There was another professor in the department who was very open with me, who I've been very close with. So I and that professor ended up developing a research project at the beginning of this year, which ended up taking turns, especially with COVID. As soon as the virus hit, a lot of our questions we couldn't actually answer because they required a lot of in-person emphasis. So what ended up happening was me and my professor completely changed gears, switched our research question, and now I'm doing research in another type of way, but it's still on the same level of things. I don't know. If I had to explain the process of being a researcher and creating research questions and actually forming collaborations with faculty, I'd say get close with the faculty, especially with forestry, because they're really cool people. You can get close with any of them. And then don't feel afraid to have to change your work up if, circumstances change, because I've definitely had to do that. I'm pretty sure most of us in forestry have had to change up what we thought we were going to do for something completely different. Yeah, that'd be my answer to the question.
Right. Thank you. Any other thoughts on that?
Yeah. Real quick, I did research my first 2 years, and that was organized basically right out of the bat through the Honors College. They have a professorial assistantship program for incoming freshmen, where you'll, if you apply for it and get selected, you get paired up with the professor who is currently researching or doing work with something that hopefully you're interested in. So me personally, I was paired up with a professor in the Fisheries and Wildlife Department, Dr. Lukanen, who was doing waterfowl research. So I was working for him and his master's student for 2 years. The program only lasts 2 years, so I was planning on working with Dr. Finley in the Forestry Department this fall, but coronavirus has made that difficult, so that's kind of on hiatus right now. But that was a case where I had him for this Forestry 372 data analysis course. I'd really enjoyed it, really enjoyed having him as professor, and so I kind of just reached out to him and asked him if he had any opportunities available. So.
All right, thanks, Connor. Jillian?
Yeah, I worked last year with Scott Warner, who's a graduate student, on a dendrochronology project, which was actually in the plant biology department, but I did get the job from the forestry department. And yeah, I think it's just super easy. If you apply for a ton of research opportunities that you're interested in, you'll definitely get one. And I personally don't really want to pursue research, but I found this job to be like super beneficial and really important. I was in the lab most of the time doing data analysis, but it was really fun and super interesting. So I would say we should do it no matter what.
Thank you. I'll just check one more time in with Lauren, and if we don't have any other questions, I have one more.
No questions on my end.
Questions there? Okay. Thank you. All right, so the last question. What is your favorite thing about being a forestry major?
I can go. I want to like accentuate that polar bear room thing. It's like a very essential part of being a forester major. I hope that everyone gets to experience it at some point. But I think definitely the professors and like the faculty is definitely the best part. Not just because there's faculty here that I'm saying that, like, it's actually the coolest group of people I've ever met, and like they're extremely helpful and they make you want to be learning all the time and being a student. It's really awesome.
Thanks.
If I had to go, I'd say just the access to faculty, the access to people to collaborate with, the access to research, the ability to just, chart your own path. That's something that's my favorite part of forestry, because I don't feel like I'm very constricted in the major. I feel like I have the ability to choose what I want to do.
Thanks, Davian.
I've really enjoyed my classes personally. Obviously, people in faculty have been great too. Classes, I've found something interesting in every single one that have made them worthwhile. So,
For me, I think it's that no matter what you're doing, you're having fun because you like the people that you're with. And we have like a whole lot of weird, I don't want to say like traditions, but like things like everyone knows room 225 because that's where you have like main classes. Everyone knows the polar bear room. Everybody knows the professors when you say their names. Like it's just so tight knit and you have fun. Like your classes don't seem like work. Even when they are, you don't feel like you're having a rough time because you've got the support and the people and the fun. And yeah, it's great.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate all of your time, students. This was a great session. And so this concludes, our virtual open house, our first one ever. Hopefully we can continue events like this into the future. I want to thank, everyone that attended today and let you know if you weren't able to jot down contact information, for any of the folks that you might have questions for, you're going to get a follow-up email from Lauren Noel, and you can forward questions to her, and then she'll be able to direct them to the appropriate people so that you'll get a response. And let's see, before we go, just a thank you to all of our presenters, especially our students. It's great that you were able to join us today. And most importantly, a big thank you to Laura Noel and Renee Tilley. They worked the magic of kind of all the logistics involved with this. And, if they weren't around, we never could have put on an event like this. So thanks again, everyone. Take care. And we hope to see you at MSU.
Thank you.